Countries could rise or fall on a piece of technology that fits on the tip of your finger. Semiconductors are critical for everything from weapon systems to microwaves. And currently, the world's biggest manufacturer of these chips is Taiwan, although China is set on taking over global production. As Brody Carter reports, that could mean a chip war in the making.
The key to dominating international technology and computing power rests in semiconductor chips, basically the brains of modern electronics. And you might be surprised the United States isn't the world leader in this multi-billion-dollar industry. It's not even second. The U.S. government's goal is simply to stay ahead of China.
When we look at the world's most advanced chips, Taiwan makes 92% of them. Matter of fact, one company in Taiwan makes 92%.
The small island of Taiwan clearly dominates the world's semiconductor market. That single manufacturer Cheng refers to is TSMC, Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company, and Apple is its biggest customer.
So if it were knocked offline, we'd face a huge economic crisis because of our inability to get the chips we need.
Tufts University professor Chris Miller is the author of Chip War, the fight for the world's most critical technology. He says the Taiwanese company's dominance in semiconductors makes OPEC's 40% share of world oil production pale by comparison.
Today, China spends as much money importing semiconductors as it spends importing oil. And it buys those chips in large part from U.S. firms that make a great business selling to China.
The chip industry is made possible by a symbiotic relationship among key countries that forms a very complex supply chain. America, the world's largest market, also makes up 40% of the total value of this international supply machine.
Today, if you want to make an advanced chip, the most cutting-edge chips that you find in a smartphone or data center, it's simply impossible to do without using software from the U.S., machine tools from the Netherlands, the U.S., and Japan, ultra-purified chemicals from Japan, as well as manufacturing capabilities in Taiwan. It's an international process.
Just 3 years ago, China's tech giant Huawei was TSMC's #2 customer. Then the Trump administration tightened restrictions, preventing Huawei from getting chips developed by the U.S. due to espionage and national security concerns.
Huawei is something that's very dangerous. You look at what they've done from a security standpoint, from a military standpoint, it's very dangerous.
If Taiwan were taken over, or even if Taiwan wasn't taken over, but there was a war in the Taiwan Straits that Taiwan repelled, even still, the shock to semiconductor supply chains would cause a deep depression in manufacturing industries worldwide. And the reason is that today, all types of goods require semiconductors. It's not just smartphones or PCs, sort of high-tech goods that you might think of. It's your car, which might have hundreds of semiconductors inside, your coffee maker, your microwave, almost anything with an on-off switch today has semiconductors inside of it.
More importantly, Miller told CBN News microchips has revolutionized American warfare. Semiconductors made in Taiwan are used in F-35 fighter jets and a wide range of U.S. military-grade weapons and defense systems. Since the world's entire tech ecosystem can't function without these chips, that makes the sovereign island ground zero for a chip war between the U.S. and China.
That means that the world's made-to-order chips are made on China's doorstep. Both South Korea and Taiwan are vulnerable, and it is not inconceivable that China could take over both of them.
That's what makes the Communist government's Made in China 2025 plan to make the country dominant in global high-tech manufacturing a true threat to the U.S., both economically and militarily.
As China's become stronger, it's become more belligerent, more provocative, more aggressive. This is perhaps the greatest mistake America has made throughout its history. And it's a mistake that we may not survive.
It's one reason the U.S. followed suit with the CHIPS Act, pouring out billions to bring chip manufacturing and research back to the U.S.
If you want to build a cutting-edge chip-making facility, it'll cost $20 or $25 billion for just one plant. These are the most expensive factories in human history.
TSMC has committed at least $12 billion to build a chip fabrication plant in Arizona starting in 2024. Still, neither China nor the U.S. can overtake Taiwan and achieve self-sufficiency anytime soon.
We should care about where they're made because we need them to drive our economy. And it is the case increasingly that things that are further away, things that are at the hands of geopolitical adversaries, may not be attainable at all times. And that provides a concern, a vulnerability for us, it also provides our adversaries a strength that they can use.
While Taiwan has maintained its sovereignty for more than 70 years, China still considers the island nation its property and regularly provokes it militarily. Given China's authoritarian use of technology against its own people and the potential power of semiconductors, who controls the world's technology and data is paramount. This evolving technology makes semiconductors even more of a national security concern, especially with progress in artificial intelligence and quantum computing. The chip war is well underway, and exactly how hostile this war becomes remains to be seen. Brody Carter, CBN News.
Well, it's an excellent piece, wonderful analysis of the current strategic situation. There's a reason Intel is investing billions of dollars in a new Ohio plant to build chips, but we're years away from that happening. Taiwan Semiconductor is saying we realize the strategic interest here. We want to build one of our factories in Arizona. When you look at the percentage, if 92% of the sophisticated chips come out of one company in one country, and that being Taiwan, it shows the strategic importance of Taiwan. Now, last year, President Xi told his military, prepare for war. He wasn't doing that on an impulse. He wasn't doing it accidentally. He's being quite intentional. And then after saying that, he consolidated power so that he would essentially be president for life. He is trying to expand China, create China as yet another middle kingdom and restore the glory of past centuries. That Taiwan would be part of China again, and that China would have absolute sovereignty over Southeast Asia. These are the goals. So when we look at that, we say, well, what can we do as a nation to protect our own strategic interests? We absolutely have to build chip manufacturing here in the United States. Let me add to it. China's been very strategic, not just on chips, but they are looking very hard at our pharmaceutical industry. And when you realize how many pharmaceuticals are no longer manufactured in the United States or in Canada, but they're manufactured in China, if we ever get into an open conflict with them, we're at an enormous strategic disadvantage. These are things that I hope our politicians are looking at, that they're providing whatever investment incentives are needed to be provided. How did we get here? We got here because of the cost of labor. It became too expensive in the U.S. to create these things. So these international companies, the big ones, said, well, let's go to the cheapest place to make them. Let's build that infrastructure there. We have to reverse that and say, no, it makes a lot of sense to have it all be done right here at home. And let's do that and do that as soon as we can. Tara?
Yeah, such concerning issues. You just look at it and go, are we not a day late and a dollar short on this?
Well, you do
deal?
start to wonder who was asleep at the switch.
Exactly.
Because this didn't just happen.
Yeah.
And it's not just pharmaceuticals. It's not just semiconductors. China is investing heavily in the harbors and shipping of the world. The economic advantage they're going to have by knowing exactly how many containers and what's in the container. They are absolutely trying to be the dominant power economically for this century, and we seem to be ignoring it and spending a lot of time and energy on things that don't really matter when you look at it from a 100-year perspective.